Welcome to your 2023 Ironman 70.3 Boulder Swim, Bike, and Run Course Preview. The swim course at the Ironman 70.3 Boulder race in 2023 is a clockwise swim start from the beach along the Boulder Reservoir. Athletes will exit the east boat ramp and run into transition after the fact. The swim is pretty straightforward, but you have some tips and tricks and strategies to make it the best swim possible for this year's race. Go, coach.
So I've done this race quite a few times. It used to be in August when it was a little bit warmer. Sometimes it would be non-wetsuit legal, but now that the race is back to June, I would expect you are going to wear a wetsuit. It's probably going to be low to mid 60 degrees in the Boulder Reservoir, so plan on wearing a wetsuit and make sure you practice wearing your wetsuit because usually at June might be the first time you're going to be able to practice open water swimming depending on where you live. So you want to make sure the wetsuit still fits you. So I definitely recommend practicing in it in a pool so you remember how to get it on and off. Now, the morning of, as you're entering, it's one of the most spectacular views, sunrise coming up over the Boulder Reservoir. It's so beautiful. Plan to take pictures, plan to get there for sunrise because of the beauty. And you will have a chance to warm up. They have a little blocked off area, roped off area that you're going to get a chance to warm up. And then you have to get out and corral because it's a wave start. They're going to start you in usually a female or male wave with your age group or maybe sometimes multiple age groups depending on the size. So you're going to have to get out of the water and get into a corral where they just kind of get your group together and to start at a certain time. Now, unfortunately, those in a later wave might have the sun in perfect position to cause a little bit of blinding as you're heading out to the first few buoys. So make sure you sight frequently. I can't stress that enough. Even if there's not sun, you still want to sight frequently till you round that first buoy just to make sure you're on course. Once you're in the water, and you start, you're only going to make right-hand turns. So you're going to swim out a few hundred meters, make a right, swim a few hundred meters more, make a right until you exit into running to transition.
It's always a good idea in these cases to bring a second pair of goggles, maybe something that's darker tint, just in case you are facing the sun or your wave's going to be hitting the sun as you head out on your swim. The 2023 Ironman 70.3 Boulder Bike Course takes you through the rolling hills of Boulder County with stunning views of the Flatirons. Now, this course has changed quite a bit over the last decade, and here is the current race map. Now, Wendy's done this race. I've done this race once. She's done it multiple times. Talk about how to navigate this race successfully because there are lots of turns.
Yeah, so it is a one-loop bike course. The years I've done it, it used to be a two-loop bike course. And now it's one loop, but there are all those U-turns kind of come in the beginning on Highway 119. If you're familiar with Boulder, you know what Highway 119 is. If not, I would definitely drive that part of the course so you understand how far the distance is between those U-turns. But once you kind of get out of that area, that's where the beauty comes. Then you're going to head out. You're going to be on the foothills. You're going to go up the famous Highway 36 over have the site of the Flatirons. And it's one of the fastest 70.3 courses I've ever done. Even with the course changes over the years, it's a very fast course. All your climbing and all the elevation kind of comes in the beginning, and there's some false flats. So if you feel like when you're heading towards the Flatirons and in the foothills, if you're feeling like you're a little bit more tired, but it appears to be flat, well, that's what a false flat is. It's going to appear to be flat, but you're actually going uphill, and then you're going to hit the hills. So again, most of that elevation comes in the beginning, and then once you turn east again, and there's a screaming downhill, and it's a screaming downhill. So if you're not comfortable riding downhill fast with other athletes around you, that's something that you might want to incorporate in your training plan, as well as if you're not comfortable riding hills and you don't have hills in the area that you live in, you might want to, travel somewhere to get experience riding up and down hills so you get comfortable with changing gears on your bike and you just kind of get comfortable with that feeling of what it's like to go super fast downhill. And if you can't do that, then doing some big gear drills indoors or riding on various apps. I know the Ruby app and the Full Gas app have the Boulder 70.3 course on them that you could ride beforehand. And at least that gets you a little bit more familiar with the terrain and the grades of the hills and the uphills and downhills.
There are more than a dozen left and right hand turns on this course. So, yes, it's going to be fast, but you're going to see a lot of cyclists along the route. So, being a heads up rider, it's going to be very important as you make these turns at a corner where someone is coming back. Because again, there's 4 U turns here. So, you're going to see these people out here being aware of traffic, not just the cars, but also your fellow spectators. How do you navigate and be successful at all these corners and turns in a race? Because it can be kind of you pick up speed. It's hard to get into a rhythm when every so many miles you have a new turn.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite, and it's not something that I'm going to go out and train practicing my U-turn ability
Hmm.
or, but it is, again, you just have to know that you do have to slow down because you may not be the only one going around this U-turn. You may be around 5, 6, a dozen other athletes doing the same thing you're trying to accomplish. So safety for me is always first. If I have to slow down more because there's other athletes around me than I would if I were alone, to me that's worth it because I don't know the experience of the athletes that I'm around. And so I'm always mindful of looking at them and trying to determine how they're going to take the corner or take the U-turn and how much they're slowing down and speeding up. But I am pretty good about once I do a corner, standing up on my bike and trying to get as much power and momentum as I can right away so I can pick up that speed again on, the next kind of various flat part of the course because that does happen on a flatter area of the course.
And be very aware of the total elevation gain, just over 2,000 feet. So there are only 3 major climbs, but they add up over time. So pacing yourself up these climbs and then taking advantage of the descents to get your legs back, spin them out, whatever it may be. But just over 2,000 feet of elevation gain in 3 major climbs.
Yeah, and I do want to say, you're going to Boulder. It's generally that time of year, mostly sunny, blue skies. It's an intense heat. It may or may not be very windy. Usually that time of year, it's not too windy. It's just the heat and the higher altitude with that, not just the heat, but the dry heat that may be a factor. So you're going to have to make sure you do extra hydration if you're not used to dry heat and altitude.
The 2-loop 13.1-mile route will run you along the Boulder Reservoir, up 63rd Street to Monarch, and all along the dam road. Most of the course is on dirt gravel roads. This 2-loop course allows you to see all your friends and family 2 different times. Now, this course as well is new for 2023, but the strategy and tips are still the same. Coach Wendy Maynard, take it away.
Right. So Dave did say it's a 2-loop course, but it's not the same loop that it was before. You used to actually run 2 loops around the reservoir, and it used to be, in my mind, a little bit more difficult. There was more elevation on the previous 2-loop course. This time, you run out of the reservoir, you stay to your right, you run over the dam, and again, it's a very pretty area. You're looking at the Boulder Res water, the sunshine, the blue skies, but it does get pretty dang hot. And I do believe that this new course is going to be a little bit more spectator friendly because it's an out and back. It's not around the reservoir. So the spectators are able to kind of get in their car and drive to various locations if they want to see their athletes.
Mhm.
So I just want to stress no shade. It's high, dry heat and sunshine. And you want to make sure you properly hydrate yourself on that bike course to help carry you through the run. Even though you may not need to hydrate or fuel at every aid station, I suggest that you do take in some sort of fluid, whether you pour it over your head or down your jersey or on your face, or you ingest it at every aid station because of the dry heat. If you're not used to it, you're more likely to get dehydrated. If you're not used to dry heat or altitude, you're more likely to start the race a little less hydrated than you would in other courses. So it's important that once you arrive to the venue, you really hydrate more than you normally would, and before the race, during the race, as well as after the race.